Yes, people, yes, people, yes, people. Welcome back to the We Talk Football podcast. Joined again by my guy, Kwaku. And today we have the pleasure of being joined by our new resident Arsenal fan, Luke Henry. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks for getting me on the pod. Yeah, can't wait to talk about Arsenal. Happy I'm on the pod though after a win, which is which is a rarity. So yeah, looking forward to it.
I'm glad to have you on, mate. Yeah, it was a great result on the weekend. Obviously, Leicester have been in shaky form. Obviously, went out in Europe in the week, but to get turned over 3-1, it was a great result. What did you think about the game?
Yeah, just going to echo that really. Obviously, when the team news comes out, it was a little bit like, oh gosh, here we go again, sort of thing. Because when I first got the team, it was for the team news. It was quite alarming because I looked, like you said, Leicester out of Europe. But I looked at their team and I thought they've got injuries. They're out of Europe, but their team just looks so much stronger than ours, and like every department. And I was like, I know we made changes, but I was like, look at that team. And then I looked at our team and I was like, no disrespect, Mari and Louise against Vardy. I thought that's going to be a little bit of mismatch when it comes to the pace. And then you're looking at the front three and you're thinking, well, I say behind Lacazette, you've got William, Smith Rowe, and Pepe. And I'm thinking, Arsenal fans, you probably know, not massive fans of William, even though he did play very well. So you're thinking, well, William's basically playing with like no players, so that's 10 men. And then you're looking at Xhaka and El Neni in midfield and you're thinking, once again, there's an over-reliance and a burden on Smith Rowe to produce, and you're going to hope Pepe comes good. But credit where it's due. You know, the players, I mean, after going 1-0 down, I was thinking, oh, here we go. Yeah, I mean, it was awful to say the least with the goal. But then, you know what? We played. And the thing is, with the first half, it was nothing. It kind of sounds weird, this. It was nothing that I haven't seen before in terms of it was very nice. It was very pleasing to watch. But it was just a bit too nice. There wasn't no ruthlessness there. There wasn't, you know, I wanted to be a bit more. But obviously, we got the goals at the crucial time. And then that sort of turned the game on its head. And then I was happy with the second half because we controlled it from ever since we scored the third goal. And it was nice to watch a full match and enjoy it. I've not said that a lot this season.
Off the back of that, in terms of controlling it, I think the times that the goals came were really important in terms of determining how you really got a grip of that game, because you scored, well, Luis scored in the 39th, 40th minute, and then you scored in added time in the second half. That's 2-1, and then you scored just after half time as well. So it meant that you really got a grip of the game, you really got a hold of the game. It meant that you can control it, and it meant that you kind of got to see Arsenal's game management, as opposed to other games I've seen Arsenal this season where they're chasing it or they're trying to get back into it. It was interesting to see that Arsenal could actually see through a game, and we were watching it together, and like the whole time we were like, what you're going to concede, like there's that innate thing with an Arsenal fan thinking it's going to go wrong. So maybe it's not a turning point because just one game against Leicester away from home, but it was interesting to see that Arsenal controlled that game and really saw it through to the end of the 90 minutes.
Yeah, you're right. It was kind of nice to see. I think you're bang on. I think the penalty from Lacazette right on half time, I think that changes the team talk. It's a cliche, but it really does. You know, when it was 1-1, I would have happily gone into the break at 1-1. But, you know, we got to 2-1 and I thought, wow. But then you're right. As you say, subconsciously, you're thinking, right, Leicester are going to come at us. I was like, we need to catch them on the break. But it sounds horrible as it is. Harvey Barnes going off with an injury was another turning point. And then Leicester were never really the same without him as well. So that was a good win, though.
Yeah, I was actually quite impressed with Pepe. I thought Pepe had a really good first half. I know he was playing against a fairly inexperienced left back at Leicester. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he showed him up on multiple occasions. He was putting the ball past him, drawing fouls. It was a promising performance from Pepe in particular. And I think obviously it was Smith Rowe looked okay as well. And I think if Arsenal are going to be successful for the rest of the season, I think the real driving force behind that will be the young English players, and come with the upcoming international break. Do you think Saka and Smith Rowe have got a chance of being in the England team, or do you think it's unlikely?
See, this is a really interesting one. I think the point I want to make is I don't think everyone's going to agree with it, because I have this feeling that Saka won't go to the Euros. And I know maybe on the outside in that might sound really bizarre, but we have to remember that Gareth Southgate's our England manager, and he does like what I consider a kind of a defensive approach. Now, I look at the left-back options that England can have, and Luke Shaw's been very good this season. I kind of think Gareth Southgate likes Ben Chilwell as well, but we've also got to think that he does like to play Kieran Trippier in this England team, and Kieran Trippier can play either right side or left. So that limits Saka's options at playing left back. And then you've also got to factor in Rashford, Sterling, Sancho, Mason Mount. I'm not sure if he gets in ahead of them in Southgate's point of view. So I think he might get selected for the upcoming internationals in March. Maybe I'm still not 100% sure that Saka will go to the Euros, which sounds pretty it's quite controversial. In regards to Smith Rowe, I think he's been brilliant for us as an Arsenal fan. You see that. I think since he's come in since Boxing Day, he's made the joint most assists in the Prem since he's been in. He's given us such a dimension in attack. I'm not sure if he's done enough, though, again, in Southgate's eyes, to warrant an England call-up. And it kind of goes on to a bigger point than this, because it kind of frustrates me, because I think in the Premier League now, you seem to have only 3 good games, and then you seem to be touted up with an England call-up. And when, no disrespect, I know you're a West Ham fan, and I look at Jesse Lingard. He's been playing really well in the last couple of games, but all this talk about him going back into the England team is quite frankly ridiculous in my eyes, because he just wants to play regular football. I don't think no disrespect, I don't think he should be anywhere near the conversation, as is Patrick Bamford. Bamford he plays a couple of few good games, and then he goes, oh, can Bamford play for Leeds? Well, Bamford came out in an interview and said he's got 4 strikers better than him already. So if he thinks there's 4 strikers better than him already, then that's basically telling that he doesn't think he's ready himself. So I think there's a fine line when we talk about playing well and then having international call-ups. So I don't know what you guys think on that one.
I resonate with a lot of what you were saying. I think the one question I would say is there's no guarantee that Trippier will go, especially with the ban that he's had recently.
Yeah.
So there is possibility there. I think they'll be more likely to see Saka go and play at left back than would to see him play at left wing, because, like you say, there's countless options there, and you've even got Jack Grealish that you didn't talk about that could play on the left hand side as well. But yeah, in terms of Smith Rowe, just when you see him play for Arsenal, he looks like a breath of fresh air. He almost looks like the player that Arsenal fans wanted Ozil to be. They're just that driving force in your attack, unlocking midfielders. Unlocking defenses, slotting passes through. Just making things happen. And it's good to see that. In a young English player, I prefer to see him maybe go to the under 21s and play over the summer in tournaments like that, as opposed to making the jump too early. What do you think, Quakes?
With it, I just feel like with Saka, his versatility, which should be a good thing, it should be a credit to the lad, is going to be something that holds him back a little bit, just because he can play in so many different positions, and people who don't watch Arsenal week in, week out couldn't tell you what position he's played. Like, it's almost like, it's how I kind of viewed Mikel Antonio, because I don't watch West Ham week in, week out. But in my mind, I've seen this guy play wing back. I've seen this guy play centrally, and now he's a striker. And like with Saka, I think there's this misconception about him, because people think he's smaller than what he is, and people think he's, I don't know, people can't really put a finger on it. And I feel like the fact they can play in like 3 or 4 different positions will hold him back. And it will be a case of, when you look at England's left back options, it'll be like, oh, okay, so Luke Shaw and Ben Chilwell. And then you look at the left wing options, it'll be like, okay, so maybe Grealish plays over there ahead of him, maybe Jadon Sancho does, maybe Rashford does. But in my opinion, in terms of like the effect that a player's had on his team, I think maybe only Jack Grealish and I don't know who else you could put ahead of Saka in terms of like the effect that they've had on their team. And people, I don't think that will necessarily see that. And where Southgate's got his favourites already, I think Saka, like Luke touched on, might suffer as a result of people not being able to pin down what kind of player he actually is.
He has played well for England though when he's been called up. Just to put that out there, when he has been called up by Gareth Southgate, although he has historically played more defensive formations in the recent call-ups, I think he's performed very well, especially for someone of his age. So I suppose it's going to be one of those things we're going to have to wait and see. I think in unison, I'm assuming we would all like him to be there. I think he gives. I think that dynamism of like being able to play all over the pitch, although you're saying that can hold him back, that can also be quite a good tool in tournament football, because if you get injuries to someone, then you can slot him in somewhere else and he might be able to fill a gap, So I think there's always that aspect to it. So it can actually aid him. And just to draw back on the point you were saying a moment ago, Jesse Lingard is in the conversation now. I don't by any stretch of the imagination, I don't think he'll go. But the reason he's in a he's in the conversation now is because historically, he's been in Gareth Southgate's teams. He's been he was at the 2018 World Cup. He performed very well. He scored some big goals, and now he's starting to perform at a level where if he was to continue this for the rest of the season, then he would be in with a shout. But ultimately, there's 4 players I would pick above him. You know, I'd rather take Mount, Foden, Grealish, and the 4th one, Maddison. And Maddison might not even go. So it'll be very harsh to get Lingard involved. The one thing that I do know is that Gareth Southgate has got some serious selections all over the pitch, apart from centre-back, really, and goalkeeper. So it's one of those.
It's a tough one. It'll be interesting. Obviously, the international break comes a couple of weeks, and so it'll be interesting to see who he picks. On form, Saka. He should pick Saka, and so I think Saka will be selected by Southgate. But with it, I feel like the problem as well we've got is that we can't define, or we can't categorically say what formation Southgate's going to go with in the Euros. He could go with 3 at back. He could go 4 at back. In the kind of fantasy football world, I think most fans will pick 4 at back, so it means you've got more attackers on the field. But realistically, he's probably going to go 3 or 5 at the back, which means we're going to take like in excess of 10 or 12 defenders. So it's gonna be a very, very interesting one. And I think if Saka does miss out on the Euros, it'll be very, very harsh, because in my opinion, he's been the best young player this season.
Well, he has played on occasion 5 at the back, and I think it's because we have an abundance of right backs, don't we? And such high quality right backs. So when we play Trent, if we play 4 at the back and we play Trent, for example, that means we don't play anyone else. Whereas, you know, we could quite easily play 3 at the back and put Kyle Walker on the right hand side. Have sorry, carry on.
Yeah, let's do that then, Luke. We'll start off with you. Let's go like England starting 11 and like see who you think should be going. And then maybe we can have like a clearer idea of what we think Southgate will go with.
Is this my team or what I think Gareth Southgate is going to go with?
What your team would be?
I'll probably go Nick Pope, because Jordan Pickford does have that characteristic to, you know, bring the limelight on himself. Although he does make fantastic saves from time to time, but I probably stretch to Pope. It's difficult because you have got to have a bit of balance in your team. Now, I probably would go for a 3 at the back. I probably would go for Walker, right centre half. I'd probably definitely go with John Stones. I think he's the first name one of the first names in the team sheet when it comes to centre backs. This is the interesting one because Harry Maguire, you'd naturally think he is. And I think Harry Maguire does get an unfair rep because he's partnered with Victor Lindelof and they don't complement each other. And in a back 3, Harry Maguire might not be too bad. But at the same time, I look at Connor Cody, I think about him, and then I know he's not been the best, but he's played in the back 3 for 2 or 3 seasons at Wolves. You've also got to think about Joe Gomez. Now, if Joe Gomez is fully fit, he's in with the shout. And Tyrone Mings has been good this season. And they're all and Tyrone Mings has got his left foot as well. So I'd probably just go with Maguire, but it would be close. I mean, I don't say that with confidence, put it that way. And then I personally, I'd obviously like to see Saka in there, but I know that Saka's strength is not left back, so I'd probably go for Luke Shaw. And then the 2 in midfield for me would be, and I know people are going to go, it's too defensive, but I would have Declan Rice and Jordan Henderson in there. I think it's too big a job to have just one of them doing. And then I would have, then again, you've got to pick 3 from the attacking talents we've got, and Kane's probably one of them. For me, it'd probably be, I'd have to go Foden, Kane, and probably have to go Sterling.
Yeah, solid lineup. There's not much I can fault. The only thing I really have question marks in is Harry Maguire in the back 3. I think he'd be good in the back 3, but I feel like it'll be good in the back 3 if he's got players that are quick enough to facilitate that. When he's got John Stones next to him, both of them aren't the quickest. My team would actually be quite similar to yours. I'd also line up with 5 at the back. I'd probably go with Jordan Pickford in goal, though, just because I think he's, as much as he's an emotional footballer, I feel like he's a good tournament player. He's got that emotion. He knows what it's like to play for England. You know, you've never really seen Nick Pope on that stage, so you don't know how. That's the only thing. I'd go with what I know.
I think that's more like a personal preference one when it comes to it, really, isn't it? It's difficult.
Exactly. Trent on the right, I think that's a given. Right of the back three, it'd be Kyle Walker. In the middle, I'd put Stones or Maguire. I'd be happy with either. Left-hand side would be Tyrone Mings, because I think it's important to have a left-sided, left-footed centre back. The left back problem could be an issue, because I think Chilwell is a left back. I don't think he's a left wing back, and I think Luke Shaw on form. But again, I think they're both more left backs than they are left wing backs. I think if I had to pick one, I'd go Luke Shaw at the moment. In the middle, again, like yourself, I would go Declan Rice 100%. And then next to him, because you've got to put someone else in there, it's probably going to be Jordan Henderson. Where am I now? So right wing, Sterling. Straight up front, Harry Kane. Left wing, Rashford, I think. And then, I think, what's that? 5, 2, 3.
So that's Foden, Grealish, Maddison and Mount. None of them start for your team.
Well, if you start at 5 at the back, you're going to sacrifice someone. The thing is, it's like you either start with 5 at the back and sacrifice one of your attack, so you can, be a more counter-attacking side, or you can start with 4 at the back and have one extra player on the team. The problem is in having someone like Foden or anything like that on the pitch. I would rather bring on Grealish in the 60th minute when we're 1-0 up against Sweden, as opposed to starting him on at the start, because I think Jack Grealish will possess an ability in that squad that no one else will do, and that's when you give him the ball, he's going to do one thing: he's going to take the ball up the pitch and he's going to draw fouls. And when you're in the 60th, 70th minute and it's crunch time against Sweden or Colombia or whatever team, well, we're going into the Euros, but say it's France or whatever, when you're against these teams and you need to control a game and control the possession, slow things down, draw fouls, higher up the pitch and retain possession, I feel like people like Jack Grealish are going to be the guys that can do that. And I'd rather bring him on fresh later in the game than actually, count on him, personally. Yeah. What do you think, Quakes?
I wouldn't. I'm not going to go through my team man for man. I wouldn't disagree with a lot of what you said. I do agree with you, Jay, in terms of I'll pick Pickford probably just because he's got experience at the level. But I don't necessarily rate him as a keeper. I think the left wing back problem could be sorted with someone like Saka playing there, because with it, you could defend as a 5, but then when you go forward, you shift, and then you can play fullback, and Saka can join the attack. So it kind of mitigates the issue of like losing one of those attacking players as a result of the formation. So I think Saka opens up so many options if you do play him left wing back, as opposed to Luke Shaw or Ben Chilwell, who are just left backs. They are left backs, and it's kind of like shoving them into a position which they can't really play. And we've seen Southgate shift Trippier to the left-hand side as a result of us not really having a true left wing back. I think someone like Saka could occupy that space. But going forward, it's like really take your pick as well. I think Harry Kane's nailed on to start, and I think Raheem Sterling's nailed on to start. And then after that, it's who you fancy. So do you like the ball retention of Jack Grealish and the ability to win fouls high up the pitch? Do you like the magic of Phil Foden? Do you like the industry of a Mason Mount? So there's so many options. Do you like the trickery of Jadon Sancho? There are so many options. I don't think there's a wrong answer. But Southgate in these upcoming internationals will have to decide what his best combinations are going into the tournament in the summer.
It could be a test run, really, couldn't it? Just to see what he can do. I think it's a tough decision though, because whoever he starts, quality players are missing out, and I think that's testament to the level of player that we have at the moment.
Yeah. And that's the main thing. It's because we have now a team that is, I look at the team. I think there's some really quality players here, and you have to look at France and look at the players. Sometimes they can leave out. I'm probably say ours is not on par, but we are. You're right. When we look at that bench in the Euros, we'll go, oh God, look who we've still got to bring on. And the thing is with Southgate though, he has to get it right. But I know that when people pick their teams, there is this. This notion to get carried away and go, right, I'll have Declan Rice on his own in that midfield, and then I'm going to play Foden, Grealish, Saka, and Kane. You've got to really have a degree of realism to think it could work. It could go amazing. But I remember when Roy Hodgson, I think, didn't he pick all the kids and all the youth in the 2014 World Cup, and that didn't go to plan because there was a lack of experience. So you do need a balance in there. And I think Southgate is clever enough to think of the balance, but at the same time, his tactics might be too detrimental, and the freedom players won't have the opportunity to express themselves. And then you're bringing on someone like Jack Grealish. And I always have this, it's a difficult one because tournament football is different. You need to come on with 15 minutes, but you also have to try and change the game. It might take 10 to 15 minutes to settle into the game, which is always a risk when you're making changes. So it's an interesting one. I know he's injured now, but, even people like Harvey Barnes has been really good this season. People have been saying he's nailed on to be part of Southgate's England plans. But again, is he? Do you know what I mean? It's very difficult. So I think as much as people have their views on Southgate, you really have to sit there and ask, okay, who do we really take? Attacking wise, it's difficult. I think, like you say, I think the defense just picks for itself. I think we're trying to, really scratch our heads and think of who was going to be the perfect partner for one of the centre halves. Yeah. But as you go forward, it's a lot. It's difficult than you think. It's a lot more difficult than you think.
I also feel like it will be interesting to see how Man City finish this season, because if Man City go and do what people expect them to do in terms of the quadruple or whatnot, the confidence that those City players will bring through to an England squad, whether it be John Stones, whether it be Raheem Sterling, whether it be Phil Foden, that could play a big part in it as well. And them just rolling through to a tournament and being in great form will also, I think, play a big part in Gareth Southgate's plans for the summer.
That's a true point. Yeah, interesting.
What about all the teams around City, though? When we talk about the race for Europe, well, the race for top four and the race for Europa League, what about everyone else? If Arsenal end up getting into the Europa League or end up getting into the top four, or if West Ham get top four, or if Leicester get top four, or if any of these players from these big clubs get into European places, does that help their chances?
So I don't know. It's a tough one. Like we saw Leicester lose to Slavia Prague in midweek and then lose to Arsenal on the weekend.
I meant end of the season, though, is what I mean. Sorry.
Okay, what in terms of?
Obviously, if we say, just to correct me if I'm wrong, you were saying that if City end up winning the quadruple at the end of the season, the high that the Man City players are going to be on is going to maybe carry that onto international level, right?
Yeah.
Will the other 6-7 teams in the league, everyone in the top 10 really is competing for the rest of the European places right now. Do the players at those clubs, for example, like Saka at Arsenal, or Harvey Barnes at Leicester, who are third at the moment, or just off the top of my head, even I can't think, but like Mason Mount or James Maddison, or all these players that are in these teams that are like going to be expecting to go on the plane or hoping for a call up, can they expect the same kind of treatment, or is it just City if they win the quadruple?
Well, how many of those teams do you back to win the trophy? Like what trophy? I think like I was touching on with Leicester, like I think we're going to see Leicester slide down the table now with all those injuries, with the kind of the memories of last season where they let it slip. I think that we're going to see a bit of a blip from Leicester, which will have an effect on the players such as Maddison, or Harvey Barnes is out at the moment. It's going to be tough for Leicester, and I don't know if the treatment that we're talking about City players that will get as a result of winning trophies will be applicable to these other teams, because I think City are going to sweep the domestic trophies, and then the rest are left to fight for the scraps.
I see what you mean though, because City, the Champions League final is on the 29th of May. So, and what is it? Start of what? It's the 11th of June, I know we play Scotland on the 18th of June, and
a couple of weeks after.
That's a quick turnaround. So you are right. If you've got the likes of Kyle Walker starting, you've got maybe Foden coming on. It's a late start, late end of the season. Sterling, he's going to be in there. It could ponder Southgate's head a little bit, and then it might make room for like players like you say, like Grealish, maybe, maybe even Saka, Maddison, because it is going to be interesting to the end of the season. It kind of depends how team's season plays out, because let's be honest, City are going to win the league. I think we all know that. There might come a time where, I don't know, Manchester United, they possibly could extend their gap on second to third to 6 points. And then you sort of have that mentality, like, I know you probably watched the game yesterday, and Graham Souness, I think I heard him say, he was saying that it looked like they accepted that they're going to finish second. So if you've got that mindset, then you might not go in, you might play a little bit more reserved, you take a little bit less risks because you're not playing for anything. And then don't forget, you get to the end of the season, don't you? And you have games that have that end of season feel because both teams are not going for anything. Players are kind of on holiday on the beach, so to speak. And with a major tournament coming up, you might be, for example, I don't know, I'll probably say Saka because, for example, I'm not sure that we'll win the Europa League and I'm not confident we'll make the final. So, maybe in the quarterfinals, which is April, we might be out of the Europa League. I probably think that Saka has done enough anyway to warrant a place. And that's the point. I do want to say, I want Saka to go to the Euros. I'm just worried he doesn't. But in his head, he might think, I think I've done enough. I'm just going to enjoy my football, relax and see what happens. So he hasn't got to play with that pressure sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see how Southgate picks it, and even Chelsea quite. Do you know what I mean? Because it's still in the Champions League, still in the FA Cup. Thomas Tuchel's coming in. You look like you're going to get not look like, but you're on a better way to get in top four than you were ever going to under Lampard. You might have a very busy end to the season, and the likes of Reece James, Ben Chilwell, they might Mason Mount, they might suffer as a result, or it could go either way. It could make them the other way. It's interesting, isn't it? So
it's so difficult to tell. It's like it could go either way, and that's the beauty of football. It's literally like a script that just unravels in front of you. It's just it depends on how it goes, and depends on injuries as well. Injuries have a big part to play, especially in a season like this, where games are so frequent and they're coming thick and fast. Injuries will have a big part to play in it as well. So it remains to be seen how it will go and how Southgate will be thinking when it comes to the end of the season.
I agree. And talking of races for Europe, obviously you're talking about Chelsea there. Being an Arsenal fan, where do you think Arsenal are going to end up at the end of this season? Do you think Europe is a realistic expectation?
Well, is it realistic? No, I don't think so. If I'm being honest, I think we can hope for a top 7 finish. I think you just got to have a degree of realism with everything, and it's not me being negative. I don't think you deserve anything in terms of European spaces, top 4, top 6, if you don't win a game for 8 weeks in a Premier League season, because we were at one point relegation form. Now, that's not me criticising Arteta completely. That's me criticising the players a lot because as an Arsenal fan, it's not the first time we've seen a short-term bounce sort of seemingly come to an end. But, as soon as we, got back onto track, so to speak, and went on a good run of form, we lost, 3 games out of 4 again. Although the performances were better. So I've said to Kroenke, I just want to see progression, direction, ambition from now on until the end of the season and so on. I think we're playing catch up too far in the league. You've got to really think about it. You're asking me, do you think Arsenal are going to finish in a European spot? Would you ask a Leeds fan the same question? Because when Leeds beat Southampton, they went above us. Do you know what I mean? So we're still actually toying more for 10th and 11th rather than putting pressure on 7th, 8th and 9th. It's not nice to see. It's not nice to be part of. But, if I could take any positives out of the Leicester game, we won 3-1. No Aubameyang, no Saka. Partey came on. Aubameyang came on very late, but the game was done. So we have got players there. The only problem is it's just all this consistency because, again, it wouldn't surprise me that Burnley have just been, didn't even turn up for Spurs. Yeah. Arsenal, you would think, I've got a little bit of confidence in the bank, but when Ashley Barnes scores after 15 minutes, it's the same old story again, and it comes back to that cycle. So, no, I don't think so. But if we won the Europa League and finished 7th, I'd be happy with that. Of course, I would.
Yeah, I think that's kind of dangerous. Obviously, we've had conversations about this before, but with it, the reason why I think that United and Chelsea finished in the top 4 ahead of Leicester last season is that divine right that those big clubs feel like they have. The reason why they finished ahead of them is because they felt like that was owed to them and that's where they should be finishing. And I feel like as a big club, when you start to lose that and that starts to diminish, you start to lose sight of the pack in terms of the big teams in the country. And where with Arsenal, I'm not saying that you're saying that you're going to be happy finishing outside of European places. You're just being realistic, which is a good way to be as a football fan. But when that slippery slope starts to happen, and clubs start to view themselves in a different light, and the kind of players that you attract are different players that you used to attract, I think it's a kind of a dangerous path to start going down as a big club, because the whole mentality shifts. Like obviously Aubameyang signed a new contract was a big coup, and bringing Partey in was like a big signing. But like the profile of players that Arsenal now go for in comparison to what City go for, what Liverpool are maybe linked with, is it very different. So like the reality of the situation, or where Arsenal are going to be out of Europe possibly because of poor league form and because of finishing or not winning for 8 weeks in a row, kind of might set a dangerous trend at the club. What's your thoughts on that?
I think the trend's already been set, and it's from the board and it's from the club, and that goes back since 2014 or 2015, sorry, when Leicester won that league in that title-winning season from them. I used to go to a lot of the games then, and you soak up the atmosphere, and you kind of think that Arsenal fans are believing, and you think you're going to win the league. You get, you beat Valentine's and whatnot, and you get that hope, and you think, why are we going to win the league? But when you think all of that, and all these Arsenal fans are getting together and having a really good time, inside that stadium, they were satisfied because we were in the top four. They were satisfied because they weren't in debt. They had no desire, no ambition to go and win that Premier League that season. It was only when they turned around, finished second, and went, oh, well, if we win a couple of more results, we want to win the league. But I didn't hear this until Theo Walcott came out and did an interview. There was no belief. There was no desire to win a Premier League title. When you're, no disrespect, the Chelseas, the Uniteds and Cities and Spurses weren't even there. It was Leicester City. Yeah. I mean, and that is when and now for so long, Arsenal fans have now been accustomed to it, of winning an FA Cup, papering it over the cracks, going again, having that hope, and it fall apart. So you can always be a big name. We've said this, haven't we? We've had this chat about you can always be a global name. Everyone knows Arsenal Football Club, worldwide, overseas, whatever the case may be. But you have to act like a big club. And Arsenal have not acted like a big club for years. And I'd say we're starting to now, but it's ever so slow, and it's ever so slightly. Yeah. So it's a long way to go. And I don't get why people are surprised when I say that, you can be a name, but we're just such a stagnant team. Like everyone, and this is the thing. Like we're talking about Leicester we beat Leicester. We should be beating Leicester. Like we should be going away to the King Power and going, God, it was a tough game today. Leicester are always a good, but I think we get out of it. Yeah. I shouldn't be surprised because we won 3-1 at the King Power for the first time since they won the league. Yeah, that's not good enough. And if you ask yourself, should you be in the top four? The only games you should really be losing are maybe City away, Liverpool away, maybe one defeat against United and Chelsea, and a couple of results. That's your lot. Shouldn't be going away to Fulham's or your Newcastle's, Brighton's, picking up a point there, or losing to Southampton, no disrespect. Because every team is tough, but you have to find a way. We haven't found a way for years. Yeah. So, I don't know. You can ask me about next season. Go on.
I was going to say, I do think those cracks that you were talking about are starting to be filled in, though, because I think you've managed to get some of the Deadwood out the club recently. Like, let's not talk about the Ozil situation, but he was a massive strain on your financial situation. He's out the club now. Mustafi's gone. You've managed to get a load of players out. So it does look like you are going somewhat in the right direction. But like you were saying, I've been saying for ages, I remember me and Kwaku, before we even had this podcast starting last year, I was saying Arsenal are not a big club. Arsenal are not a big club anymore. And hearing you say that as an Arsenal fan is music to my ears, because I don't think you've been acting like a club for years, because the level of player you've been attracting and bringing in for quite some time, the way you've conducted yourself, it hasn't been indicative of the behaviour you would expect of a big club.
But this is the worrying thing now. Yeah. This is the worrying thing, because you're right. Because now, I chat to my friends who are Arsenal fans, and it saddens me when we talk about players that we think we're going to sign. Like I'm saying, go and get. We're talking about players, and I'm thinking, Basuma's not bad. But Basuma plays for Brighton. Yeah. But I am now steeped into that culture of, Basuma's all right. I should nowhere ever be thinking about going to get Basuma. I should be thinking about, let's go and get Wilfred Ndidi, because I think Wilfred Ndidi is really good. But Wilfred Ndidi plays for Leicester, and he won't want to downgrade to come and join Arsenal. The pool, you've got a pool, like I said, you've got the name. But look at Liverpool. Liverpool were always a big club, but they lost 6-1 to Stoke City. But as soon as Klopp came in, he rejuvenated the squad. He got them being that big team again. And they were winning leagues. They won Champions Leagues. But they were always a big team when they were 30 years without a title. They were well known, but they weren't acting like a big club. And you can't, no Arsenal fan could tell me that we'll win the league. We could be Liverpool. I'm 22. The last time I saw Arsenal win the league, I was 4. I didn't even realize what happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But mate, so I was looking online and I was seeing, this is not my notion or idea, it's someone called Culture Cams. And he was talking about when Man City got their money and they'll come into prominence, they systematically looked at the landscape and was like, obviously Liverpool and United are almost untouchable in this country. They're steeped in football and history in this country. And Arsenal, in my mind, should be on that level as well. Like from the team down south, Arsenal, they're a team that's got the history. They've got that. They're a huge club. Man City looked at Arsenal and was like, if we want to get a sense of where we want to be and we want to be a top club in this country, one of these teams can't be there anymore. Can't do it to United because United are already United. Like Liverpool are Liverpool and they're almost different. They see themselves not even part of the UK. But Arsenal, they went and got Adebayor, they went and got Clichy, they went and got Sagna, they went and got Nasri, they went and got Vieira at the end of his career, and then he became a coach. They went and got Arteta. They literally not sucked the life, but these are players that maybe at the time you weren't too displeased to see them go. But I feel like Man City looked at Arsenal and was like, we are going to take what you do and do it better, and we're going to actually deplete yourselves to elevate ourselves. So like, what's your thoughts on that in terms of like, as a big club, you haven't been that, in my opinion, since City have come to prominence in the Premier League.
I mean, yeah, going back from them deals, it was an interesting one because at the time then it was like Wenger was, we were like sort of the feeder club. Arsenal did tend to lose their big players to rivals, but no disrespect, City weren't a rival. And I remember Adebayor going for £25 million, and I thought, to be honest, it's not the worst deal because he only had really one good season. And then, you're looking at good business, you think you can cash in. But, mate, you look back then and you look at the recruitment, and this is when Arsene Wenger worked with wonders. And this is when most Arsenal fans, I think, would tell you, we were getting Champions League football with Shamak and Bentner. And, you're thinking, this guy's unbelievable. Imagine if he had money again. Because, obviously, when we moved to the Emirates, we ran out of money. And in 2011, we get sold the dream and said, right, it's all good now. So everyone went, well, he's had his 5 years. We're up. Let's go. And the thing is then, across there, it was Champions League final in 06, League Cup final in 07, should have won the league in 08. Well, I say should have, but we were top of the league in 08 until Eduardo had the horrible injury and broke his leg. And, understandably, Arsenal fell off the rails because it was a horrible injury. 2008 and 9, Champions League, Ronaldo comes and pops one in from 50 yards, off the half, basically from the halfway line with that free kick. And you're thinking, okay, we're still nearly there. We're getting Champions League quarterfinals. We get 2011, I'm seeing 4th, 3rd, 4th, 1 FA Cup. Fabregas wants to come back. He says no. 2015, we don't buy any one outfield player apart from Petr Cech. You start scratching your head. You're thinking, what's going on? We're signing players like Debuchy. You're thinking, something's not quite right here. Like, he's great at Newcastle, but why is he doing it at the Emirates? Do you know what I mean? And then that's just naturally now become a standard thing. And the thing is with Arsenal back in the day, I say back in those days, Arsenal were a nice team to play against. You know that being a Chelsea fan, because they were lovely, Arsenal. They're really nice. We love what they do. But you knew when push came to shove, Arsenal would fail and fall at the final hurdle. And they were always unlucky. And it was, beautiful football. You love to watch it. Great stadium. It reminds me of what Tottenham are now. And I'm not saying that as a dig to Tottenham, but Tottenham have done so well. They play lovely football, but they're nearly there. They always got nearly there. But everyone knows that when push comes to shove, 9 times out of 10, Tottenham do fall apart. And I've said to Tottenham fans, you remind me of what we were 10 years ago. Yeah. But they need to try and kick on, and we need to get back to where we would be. But there's no defined right that we will, just because we're Arsenal Football Club. I'd love nothing more to sit here and tell you that we're the best team in the world. Yeah. I'd love to say that, but I'm not even sure. Like we said, we're not even the best team in North London at this moment in time. And it pains me to say that.
Yeah.
Because we're not. I sat there against you on Sunday, and the joy I get out of it is because we went above them for 3 hours. I shouldn't even be thinking about them. Do you see the point?
Yeah.
Because fans now, we're starting to accept the mediocrity because that's what we're seeing. And we'll have good games against Leicester's. We beat you 3-1. I'm thinking, well, we'll kick on here. And we have, and then we lost a few games. But, beat Man United away from home, end the big 6 hoodoo, and then don't turn up for 7, because that's been the comfort of Arsenal fans and players. It's crazy, man. Crazy.
Yeah. No, mate. Yeah. I I'm in agreement. And like Jamie said before, we've had conversations about it. And I've always, maybe I look at it through rose-tinted glasses in terms of the history of football. I've always established that Arsenal are a big club and they will always be a big club. They're in that big three of United, Liverpool and Arsenal. But like Jamie and you are outlining, these like you haven't behaved like a big club for almost a decade now. So it's it'll be interesting to see.
And we're feeling the effects of it, mate.
Yeah. It's just look at it this way. If Liverpool had a season where they finished 9th or 10th but won an FA Cup, is that a successful season for Liverpool?
No.
No.
But if Arsenal do something equivalent to that, it's like that's a successful season for him. Arteta did that last year. Obviously, I know he was coming into the club, but that's a good season for Arsenal. You know, it's just that's how much Arsenal have changed in the last 10, 15 years.
It comes from the top, though. It comes from the top because it bleeds down. Yes. Like I know this has become a very Arsenal-centric topic, but it makes sense because we've got Luke on. But it bleeds down from the top. When these owners, the people talk about they don't want to spend money. If you look at the American teams that they own, those teams are in the Super Bowls and those teams are winning things. But where they view the teams that they own in England, it was almost being like a side project. That's just going to tip me over. It's going to make me money. And they don't put real money into it. So when you look at the United fans moaning about the Glazers just own Tampa Bay Buccaneers who just won a Super Bowl this year. Like the LA Rams were in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Arsenal were nowhere near a Champions League final, let alone qualifying for the Champions League. Like it's crazy, and it comes from the top down. And what like the kind of dissatisfaction and the acceptance of this mediocrity from Arsenal fans is because the board are accepting the mediocrity because they're still making money. And this pandemic is also going to accentuate the issue because they kind of would have worked out that without fans in the stadium, they're still ticking over and they're still managing to be profitable. So like fans can't even vote with their feet anymore. It can't be a case of I'm not going to go to the games because they're like the owners are still going to make money. So in terms of it, I think you're going to need somebody like Liverpool got. Like people talk about the Liverpool FSG in terms of them being these incredible owners. They were putrid until Jurgen Klopp came in. Arsenal need like a man. I don't know if Arteta is the man to come and reset the culture. And I feel like football clubs can be turned around by a single manager. We just have to wait and see if Arteta is the man for that job.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go too into it, but there is there is upstairs there has been shifts, there has been streamlining processes. There is there has been change upstairs, and Arteta and Edu are now fronting a together alliance for the transfers. And we've got someone that's come in. His name's Richard Garlick. So there's people upstairs, but the main problem is still Stan Kroenke. Now, the thing is, the problem with Stan Kroenke is he's very, very rich, but he just doesn't put money into the club. I think I put more money into that club than he has. And that's bizarre on so many levels. But that's the worrying thing. But and you're right, it filtrates down to the pitch. And I think we saw that in the end of Wenger in the 2017-18 season. That's when it got. And I'll give you the quick example. Alexis Sanchez. When he left, Arsenal fans were furious at him, absolutely furious at him. But then you look, you look and you actually go, well, actually, he was wasting his time here. Because you know why? Because we won 2 FA Cups, but he wanted to win 2 Champions Leagues at Arsenal. But that wasn't what everyone else wanted to win. So people were happy at Arsenal winning the FA Cup. There was players there that were satisfied because they won the FA Cup. Sanchez was annoyed that we finished second in the league. But his mentality was far stronger than theirs. That's why he had to leave. And that just says it all.
It's the same with Van Persie, isn't it?
Tradition. Same with Van Persie. Arsenal value, the motto is history, tradition, and class. Currently, Arsenal are rewriting a new history of being one of the, it's their worst period in Premier League history for a while, for decades. The tradition is, I don't know what the tradition is anymore. It used to be win. We don't look like winning. And the class seems to have disappeared through the pandemic. 55 people going through, sacking them people. It's a crazy mess. I've always said it's broken club, toxic club, but it needs to be ironed out. But it's going to take time, and I'm well aware it's going to take time. But you can talk about this for ages.
So with it then, to wrap it up, obviously you think Arsenal are going to finish. You say 7th this season, yeah?
Yeah, it'd be nice, to finish 7th.
So let's go through your top 6 then, or like top 7 if you include Arsenal as well. Because obviously Jamie being a West Ham fan, he's very, very excited at the moment with the prospect of his team his team venturing into Europe. Obviously, West Ham are looking amazing. So we'll start with you, Luke. What's your top 8 this season in the Premier League in order?
Okay, City, United, Leicester.
Fourth is hard. It really is hard, I think.
I want to say Chelsea. No disrespect, but then I'm also thinking about Liverpool. I think I'm being honest. I think it will be your City, United. I still think Leicester will do it. I'm going to say Chelsea will pip Liverpool just. I'll say Liverpool 5th. I'll say West Ham will finish 6th. Spurs will finish 7th. I think Everton will finish 8th. In fact, I think Arsenal will finish probably 9th. Between Arsenal and Villa for 10th. So yeah.
Okay, fair. What about you, Jay?
For me, there's not much I can argue with that. As much as I love the fairy tale of West Ham being in the top 4 spaces, I think the size of our squad, like I've always said all season, I think it's going to be our undoing at some point. I would say a top 6 finish, like finishing 6th. I would snatch a hand off right now if I could take that, but I wouldn't be surprised if we drop down to 7th or 8th, unfortunately. But I'll back the boys. I'll back the boys and contradict myself completely and say,
what's the top 4 though?
Top 4. All right, yeah. Top 4. West Ham to win it. No. City, United. I think Chelsea are going to put in a strong run of form and potentially get 3rd, and I think 4th will be Leicester or Liverpool. I will go, I think Liverpool.
Yeah. My top 4 is exactly the same as yours, Jay. Like you called it at the beginning of the season, you said City would win the league. I'll say, yeah, City top, United 2nd, Chelsea 3rd, and Liverpool 4th. I think Leicester, just because of the injuries, nothing else apart from that, I think Leicester will just miss out. And then the rest is literally take your pick for the Europa League places. It's literally who can put a run together, who can avoid losing 3 games in a row. It's a madness this year in the Premier League. But yeah, I suppose again we're gonna have to wait and see. But the only thing that's guaranteed this season is that Sheffield United are going down and Man City are winning the league.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
I mean, who knows? I mean, I don't think it's possible. I mean, is it possible? Could they really do it? Imagine Sheffield United did do it. I don't think they can now. They'd need Brighton and Newcastle to lose at least 5 of the last 13 matches they've got. Well, we can all hope. Well, I say hope. I'm not really bothered, but
yeah.
I'm not bothered either. I feel like people have got this romance with Sheffield United because they did well last season. For me, I think Chris Wilder, one of my most least favourite managers I've ever heard, seen. I don't care. Yeah, I don't care. His interviews rattle me.
Well, trivia.
Not going to be missed. Not going to be missed. Jamie, just a quick one. I'm kind of interested to know when you mentioned about West Ham. Where do you stand with the old David Moyes? Because I still feel there's a few West Ham fans that are not really his biggest fans. And also, were you a bit annoyed about the FA Cup, the way he approached that game against United? Or
David Moyes, I think personally, there are certain things he does that I'm not a fan of. I think he waits too long to make substitutions, but I think with the tools that he's got and where we are in the league, no one has any right to complain about David Moyes right now, especially as the fact that he's out of contract at the end of the season as well, and there's no guarantee he'll be here next year. You'd like to think he would be. I'm 100% Moyes in. I think he's doing amazing things and he's got the players performing. And not only that, it's in terms of an atmosphere around the club, atmosphere around the players and the general direction the club's going in. As a 28-year-old man, this is probably the best West Ham side I've ever seen in my life. So 100% have to back David Moyes. The only thing that I do have a problem, which ties into the FA Cup, is that too often on occasion this year is we've played teams on reputation, not form. We played Liverpool. Who sandwiched winning against us with defeats and then went on to lose plenty more games. We played United on reputation. Almost looked like we didn't want to win the game or even attack the game because we're too scared of what they can do on the counter attack. And I feel like sometimes we go into games a little bit more reserved than what we are, But then at the same time, we've had great results. We beat Leicester 3-0 away. We went and beat Tottenham the other week. We've had good results. I just think, especially in the cup, for example, this year for us would have been a great year to make a cup run, But how much of that I can lay at David Moyes' feet, I don't know, because ultimately I think our largest problem is the size of our squad. So in that cup game that we lost to United, for example, we brought on two 18-year-olds, one of them being unproven. You know, that was released from United a few years before. And asking a question of him when we're playing five at the back and he's isolated on his own against two international centre-backs and then subbing him off 30 minutes later, you know, like,
yeah, well,
how much of that I can really lay as blame at David Moyes? I can always question his tactics, but in terms of investment into the squad, I don't know how much control he has in that. And that's my real apprehension. I think like we didn't invest enough. And, you know, I've waxed lyrical on this podcast numerous times about how, you know, we've let Haller go and we haven't replaced him, and bringing in Jesse Lingard is amazing, but currently we have one out and out striker in Mikel Antonio. And outside of that, we had Yarmolenko, who isn't a striker, but he's injured. And now we've got Odebeku, who's completely unproven. So this is why I think, like, you know, I've said numerous times, our season can quite literally capitulate in the space of a few weeks because we don't have a squad large enough to complete on multiple fronts. So say we go and, you know, best case scenario, we finish sixth. What are we going to do in the Europa League next year and then in the Premier League? You know, we don't have anywhere near the numbers to compete on both fronts. Do you think we can play like Arsenal can't do it? And look at the players Arsenal have, you know, but you think West Ham can go to wherever on a Thursday and then play someone on a Sunday? Like, it'd be very, very tough asking. We would need a lot of investment in the club, but that's me just talking about West Ham. I could talk about West Ham all day.
Oh, man. It's obviously, Lucas, we've kept you for longer than we expected, but it's been great having you on, man. Obviously, we'll put a link.
Sorry to ramble.
No, mate.
This is what we do. This is literally what we do when we put a camera.
So Quaker knows. As soon as Quaker asked me about Arsenal, it's never a short conversation. It's never short. I do apologise.
But with Arsenal, there's so much to talk about, and like you made so many valid points that we hadn't even really thought about, and not being Arsenal fans ourselves, we wouldn't even understand about some of the things that went on during the periods that you talked about. So we appreciate you coming on, man, and we'll definitely be having you on more in the future as well. And we're going to put your socials down in the description as well, so people can follow you on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. But yeah, man, we appreciate you having you on, and we'll talk again in the future.
Yeah, we'll put them in the descriptions,
thanks,
but feel free to shout them out. Where can people find you, Luke?
Oh yeah, cheers. My Instagram is LukeHenry98, and my Twitter is at Luke_Henry1. And just a little warning about my Twitter: it contains very, 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 very heavily Arsenal content because all I tweet about is Arsenal Football Club. So I do apologise in advance. That's about it. But yeah, no, thanks guys. I really appreciate it. Great to be on.
No problem, man.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Thanks ever so much for listening. That's another episode in the bag. Where can people find us, Kwaku?
I ain't done this in a while. So you can find us on Instagram, We Talk Football Podcast. On Facebook, We Talk Football Podcast. On Twitter, it's at WTF Podcast 90. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple Music. You know how to find us. We're on YouTube as well. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel, and we'll be back with more videos soon.
Sick. Right, I'm going to end the call, right? And this is all going to go on YouTube. So I'll see you all later.